pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, Council, we've all had a chance to take a look at the regular agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the regular agenda, please?
I'll move to approve the agenda as written.
Thank you, John. And a second.
Second.
Councilmember Carr?
Aye.
Councilmember Rogg?
Aye.
Councilmember Giefer?
Aye.
Councilmember Tufti?
Aye.
Mayor Huber?
Aye, thank you, Kim. Consent agenda, we've all had a chance, hopefully over the last week, to take a look at our bill list and some of the things that are on the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion to approve that consent agenda, please.
Make that motion. Second.
Bob?
Councilmember Carr?
Aye.
Councilmember Rogg?
Aye.
Councilmember Giefer?
Aye.
Councilmember Tufti?
Aye.
Mayor Huber?
Aye, thank you, Kim. First up, gentlemen, is it's a variance request for XXX 89th Street. I'm sure you've all had a chance to take a look at Jennifer's memo here. It looks like we're dealing with, after the road is removed, about 0.9 acre. This gentleman would like to know if we're interested in perhaps granting a variance so that he may build, I would assume, a residential home on 0.9 acres. Any questions on this?
Jennifer online, is she there?
I don't even think she's on yet.
Yes, she is.
Is she? Hi, Jen, are you there?
I am. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council.
Hi, Jen. Say, can you talk us through our memo here just real quick? This looks like a pretty simple one, but if you've got some insight to share.
Sure. So the applicant, I believe, has a purchase agreement with the property owner, and they contacted the city and went through what we have as the other land use application process, so that we could do an analysis to determine if the property was buildable, or how we would look at it, since the lot was created many, many years ago. So staff went through that process, dug into the records, and came to the conclusion that while the lot absolutely predates the adoption of the ordinance, in fact, I believe it probably even predates the Metropolitan Council getting the sewer powers that it has today in terms of minimum lot sizes, that it doesn't meet our second exception criteria, which essentially says that lots of record that were created prior to the enactment of our ordinances need 2.5 acres. So in this case, we're dealing with an approximately 1 acre property. When you take out the roadway, obviously you're left with, 0.85 or 0.9, whatever it ends up being once that area is out. That's clearly substandard in terms of our minimum lot sizes and several of our other lot area criteria. So my interpretation of our ordinance is that in this case, this lot would not be buildable, even though it was created well before the enactment of our minimum lot size standards. So that was communicated back to the applicant, and then obviously the applicant said that they would like to explore whether or not there would be any interest from the council before they were to move forward with trying for a variance from various standards on our lot size requirements. So that's a very brief overview. Obviously, I'm happy to answer any specific questions, but I think that sums up the process pretty accurately to date.
Real good. Thanks, Jennifer. Any questions for Jennifer? As I said, this one looks pretty cut and dried, but go ahead, Tom.
I had a conversation with Jennifer just before the meeting. Jennifer, you want to go over kind of what we talked about a little bit, or do you want me to?
Sure, I can give you an overview of, so Councilmember Carr and I spoke briefly in terms of there's essentially two ways that you could go about this. If there's an interest from the council's perspective in allowing lots that are approximately 1 acre or under that 2.5 acres, we do know that there are some of those that still exist in the community that have not been built on, but that were created many years ago. There's essentially a couple different ways that we could go about it. Obviously, we could entertain variances from specific standards to demonstrate that a lot, even if it is substandard in terms of area, that there's adequate area still to site a septic system, the well, a house, etc. So obviously that would be much what is in my review letter in terms of you'd need to go through that variance process. The second way would be to look at initiating some kind of text amendment process, like we've done in the past, to review whether or not there should be a second exception standard for lots that are smaller than even the 2.5 acres, provided certain criteria are met. Obviously, that criteria to be established because we'd be looking at a text amendment. So there's kind of two different ways we could look at it. If these smaller substandard lots are something that the council would be interested in looking at how they could become buildable.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and I looked around, Grant, part of our ordinance allows, there's a lot of tiny lots up by Withrow in different places, but if the house burned down, I talked to Jennifer, something like that happens, they can still put their house back up, that's not a problem. But there are a lot of small lots, there's a whole bunch of them down in Imberg Court, owned by a trust. And they could be combined, some of them, but if somebody were to go in there and say, I want to buy a lot, there's a PID. We went through this on a property on Jamaica where the house was sold, had a small lot, 2 acre lot, house is on that, 8 acres and behind. Dad wants to buy it for the kid, said we got to combine it. Then afterwards, he took and he transferred the 8 acres to him. So the house again is sitting on a 2 acre lot. I'm saying, well, you can't do that. And then our attorney said, well, it's got a separate ID, so, what do we do? And I'm a little concerned with some of the lots out there that could be, and my only concern for me is that having people do that and having come forward to us, what do I do? I go, well, we have rules, and that's, but you're still, Jennifer, Kim, we're all gonna have to spend time with that, and I'd like to try to head that off. I don't mean at this particular moment. We can deny this, and that's, or do whatever, not give them a variance, that's fine, but maybe we should revisit it so we don't have to revisit all this every time it happens, and we can have some, and I don't know the exact mechanism, I leave that up to, the attorney and Jennifer, Kim's advice, whatever, whoever we can throw in our advice, and come up with a method, because we do have a lot of those small lots left that are not built on.
Okay, well, that's not on the agenda.
I
Let's go
understand
ahead and look at this as a yes or a no. There's no vote taken here. So this gentleman wants to build on a 0.9 acre lot. There's, in my opinion, obviously I haven't been out there and done any soil borings, putting 2 septic systems into a 0.9 acre lot will be quite the accomplishment, but that's the only way it could be built on. Also, we have some Met Council agreements we've agreed to throughout the years, as well as our own ordinances that clearly state this lot is not buildable. Now, if you'd like to have a discussion about these smaller lots later on, sure, yeah, no problem. Let's bring it up later on when we talk about putting things on the agenda, and we can discuss it at that point.
Yeah, and that's what,
Sound good?
and that's what I just said, so,
Good. Good,
So-
good.
so we'll talk about that later in, staff or council discussions.
Absolutely.
Okay.
John, how you feeling about this one? And no or a yes on the variance?
It's pretty cut and dry in my,
Yeah. So,
No,
I would say no.
no. Bob?
no,
Tom?
Well, I'd like to abstain because I'd rather go through the process rather than tell somebody no right away.
Oh,
Is
okay.
that, cause it might be we come up with something, so.
With the existing rules right now, no.
Yeah.
Jeff?
yeah, no.
No. Okay, let's move on, guys. Thanks, Tom. We'll talk about that once we get to staff
Yep.
updates. All right, Brad, looks like you're up. Are you with us? Gotta switch screens.
I am here.
There he is. Gotcha, Brad. Good to have you back. See your smiling face. Looks like we're gonna talk first about an assessment hearing on Knollwood Drive to improve the street. Go ahead, Brad.
We are, Mayor, members of the council. Tonight I'm seeking a motion by resolution to declare estimated costs and schedule a public assessment hearing for the Knollwood Drive Street Improvement Project. As you know, the project was initiated by a petition by the adjacent property owners and is following the Minnesota State Statute 429 procedures on special assessments. To date, the following procedures have been completed. The City Council adopted the feasibility report at the June 27th, 2023 regular meeting. A public hearing was conducted on the August 1st, 2023 regular meeting. Following the public hearing, the council ordered the public improvements and authorized the preparation of the plans and specifications. The council accepted the plans and specifications and ordered the advertisement for bids at the January 2nd, 2024 regular council meeting, and bids were received last week on May 2nd, 2024. So the improvements are anticipated to be partially funded by the special assessments to benefiting properties in accordance with the city's assessment policy. The total benefit amount to be assessed is estimated at $219,836. There are 8 total buildable units. The assessments per buildable unit is estimated at $25,426. The City of Grant is contributing street maintenance dollars in the amount of $16,431 to the cost of the project. Assessments are proposed to be paid in equal annual installments over 15 years at a 4.5% rate for each parcel beginning in January 2025. The assessments may be paid in whole with no interest charged if the entire assessments is paid prior to October 31st, 2024. So city staff is recommending scheduling the public hearing at the June 4th regular council meeting. So with that said, I would entertain any questions from the mayor or the council.
Just real quick, Brad, just the one, and I probably always ask this one. The 219,836 on the 8 total buildable units, that is prior to our contribution of 16,431, or is that after our contribution?
That is, your contribution is not included with that 219,000. So the 16,000 needs to be subtracted from the $219,000.
Great, so, yeah, nice. Thanks, Brad. I appreciate that.
Yep, you bet.
Gentlemen?
Yeah, let's do it.
Hey, our roads are working, and people are getting them done, and the process is great, always driven by the residents. We do not send you a letter and tell you when to do your road. You tell us when you want to do your road. That's what makes the difference out here. Citizen driven. Do I have a motion to approve 2024, I think it's 06? Thanks, John.
Yes, I do.
Thank you, John.
Second.
And Mr. Kiefer.
Councilmember Carr?
Aye.
Councilmember Rod?
Aye.
Councilmember Kiefer?
Aye.
Councilmember Tufti?
Aye.
Mayor Huber?
Aye, thanks, Kim. All right, consideration of resolution 2024-07, municipal support for Highway 36, County Road 17. Am I ever glad to see that? Brad, go ahead.
Mayor, members of the council, tonight I'm seeking a motion to adopt a resolution approving municipal consent supporting the county's preferred concept drawing and continuing the development of final plans and right-of-way acquisition necessary for the construction of the Highway 36 and Lake Elmo Avenue intersection improvement project. Washington County, in consultation with its partners, MnDOT, the City of Grant, City of Lake Elmo, have engaged in an intersection study process since 2021 to identify and evaluate potential improvements to the intersection. As part of this process, Washington County has conducted numerous meetings with all of its stakeholders, including the public, through open houses and neighborhood meetings. So through all these efforts, a preferred concept known as the overpass with button hook ramps alternatives was developed. Now, I don't know if I can share my screen with you or not. Let me see if I can do that. I'll share the map with you. Oh, I cannot share it. Kim, can you share the map that's in the packet or not? Or we can just skip it as well.
The council has a copy of it. It would be nice to be able to share with the public. Ken, can we get that up or not?
Ah, the old days when we had a
Yeah,
projector.
the old days. Welcome to Grant, everyone. We're gonna scan it.
If you want to try it, you should be able to do it now.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Jennifer. And then everybody see that?
Hey Brad, while we're waiting, I have a quick question.
Shoot.
We lost him. Oh, there
There
he
we
is.
go.
He's still there.
I've been asking, people are asking me that live down that street a couple of questions, and they're just wondering if we've got one house, is that still gonna be removed by eminent domain, or is that house gonna stay?
No, as far as I know, there's no properties being taken, residential properties being taken as part of this project. Councilmember Carr, so.
Brad, before you start, could you just have a brief summary of the initial designs that were proposed?
Yeah, so the drawing that I'm showing you right now is pretty much the original concept that the City of Grant had approved way even before the 2021 project intersection study kicked off. And so this concept is County Road 17 or Lake Elmo Avenue is at grade through the intersection with Highway 36 with a bridge overpass over County Road 17, and then a couple access points, these button hooks is what they're calling them, with a right in and right out onto east and westbound Highway 36 onto the frontage road. So that's how you would access the highway. They did look at a couple tight diamond interchanges and roundabouts and other types of intersections here. But ultimately, the county decided that, through the public engagement process and meeting with both cities, that this would be the preferred concept for this project.
Just to kind of bring back our memories a little bit, Brad, from all those meetings we had, the tight diamond was going to require the 60th Street, the frontage road there, to be routed up and over, for the most part, our business district. And then cut across Lake Elmo, take the property that Tom had just hinted at, and come back down to the south, back to 36, and rejoin 60th Street. That tight diamond had a much, much higher impact, I would say, on the city in many different ways. Would you agree with that?
That is correct, Mayor. I think the frontage road kind of cut through Shifsky's here and came up, I think it's 62nd Street, right? Or close to the back property line of these properties that are adjacent to 62nd Street, and then came back down and joined existing 60th Street somewhere in this location here. So yeah, there is, with this option, there are none of those impacts to properties.
And we also would have been on the hook, as I understand, for building, not only doing sound studies, but building sound walls there, and the city would have had additional expenditures for that type of project. And the house that was scheduled to be taken, they just moved into 3 months ago and put in a brand new septic. So this is a very nice thing to see, and I'm glad the county, and I'm pretty sure Lake Elmo is gonna see it this way as well and move forward. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, I just wanted to hit those other preliminary plans that we had, Brad, and just sort of mention the impacts of vis-a-vis this plan.
Yep, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
John, Bob. Mr. Giefer?
No questions from me.
Okay, just a couple other notes on this. Kim and I spent, Kevin, how many meetings did we have? Fran Meyer, and how many meetings did we have on this? You got tired of seeing us after a while, didn't you?
Never.
Yeah, no you did. After a while you kind of did. But that's okay. We came to a great conclusion. I think that Lake Elmo is also happy with the expansion there, the safety features of it, their ability to do a little bit more with the northern portion of their access there. I'll leave that to Lake Elmo to explain, but I think that their administrator, the last talk I had with him, was pleased with this and was pretty sure the council was going to be happy as well. So I'm just glad it all worked out like this, guys. I didn't want to go down and knock on that door and say, hey, we're taking your house, because it would have come on us, right? It always does. So anyway, looking for a vote or a motion, I'll get my glasses on, 2024 triple number, because it's not numbered yet, Brad?
I believe it's 07.
It is 07, okay. I wasn't sure if you guys were doing something special there. That'd be
It's
fools.
07.
All right, real good. Gentlemen,
I will move to approve 2024-07.
second.
Second.
Councilmember Carr?
Aye.
Councilmember Rogg?
Aye.
Councilmember Giefer?
Aye.
Councilmember Tufti?
Aye.
Mayor Hebert?
Aye. Thank you, Kim. Okay, now we're to the big one here. Consideration of Washington County Cooperative Agreement, a trail connection from Ideal Avenue to the middle school to the east on County Road 12. We have a lot of information has come up on this one. We've got a lot of interested people here. And from the new information that we've learned, I'm gonna say I like it. Kevin?
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, thank you for having us tonight. As stated, my name is Kevin Peterson. I serve as Washington County's design engineer. I'm joined tonight, as also mentioned, by County Commissioner Fran Miron. He represents this area. Also, as noted, we're here to discuss an off-road trail opportunity on County Highway 12. Just real quick overview on the current construction going on. So work underway now will extend really near the Wildwood Library in Matamidi, all the way east to very near Kimbrough, essentially where the work is stopping now. This project includes replacement and addition of storm sewer, drainage improvements, roadway and trail reconstruction, a new stoplight at East and Hallam near the gas station there, just west of the fire station. And then also an asphalt trail extension from Hilton to Ideal. The low bid for this work came in at $7.3 million. It was the largest roadway construction project that our county board awarded this year. To develop and get to this point, we held several community engagement events, open houses. Most recently, we held one on April 9th to really gear up the community for construction. So certainly happy with the attendance there and excited to get things going. So on to the matter at hand. As stated, we're here with an opportunity to construct an off-road bituminous trail from Ideal Avenue to the stoplight at the Matamidi Middle School. I'll be blunt. This is obviously a border area. Ideal Avenue is the border between Matamidi and Grant. Just for reference, the city of Matamidi is contributing over $640,000 as part of their cost share to the county construction project that I mentioned earlier. A small portion of that is actually extending the trail from Hilton to Ideal. So continuing the trail from Ideal to the stoplight at the Matamidi Middle School entrance provides an excellent opportunity to get kids and pedestrians east and west. And that stoplight really represents the safest way to cross that busy county highway. So by connecting this, again, we're adding really safe crossings on both sides of Ideal Avenue. I'd be remiss if we didn't hit on costs as well. So our team estimates the cost of this just over 1,000 feet of trail from Ideal to the middle school at around $316,800. Utilizing the county's cost participation policy, which requires a 50-50 cost share, that would put the cost on Grant and the county at just over $158,000 each. That said, through the community feedback and engagement that we held, we did hear a lot of interest in this trail. So the county solely applied for outside federal grant funding. We were successful in this grant request and were awarded $256,800, essentially 80% of the $316,800 cost. So what that does is it brings each county each cost share down to $30,000. The county, as a practice, we share that grant funding with our partner agencies. So really with that, Mayor, members of the council, thanks again for having us and the opportunity to present this and discuss this trail segment. We've done a lot of great work together, frankly, between us and the city here. And we feel really strongly that we've done everything possible to lower costs for this trail. Additionally, we've also really eliminated any long-term maintenance requirements as the city of Matamidi has agreed to plow this trail as well. The county is not equipped to plow trails. We rely on all of our city partners to do that. And in this case, Matamidi has agreed to step up and plow this segment of trail. So with that, I'm happy to hear any discussion, and I'll stand for any questions.
Yeah, just real quick, Matamidi, it's not that Grant doesn't want to do that. We don't have the equipment. So for us to go out and purchase capital equipment in order to do a segment like that would be really cost prohibitive. It really wouldn't make sense for us. But I will echo what Kevin said here. We've done a lot of good projects together, and working with these guys at the county, whether it's with Fran, whether it's with Wayne, the head over there, has always been a pleasure. I am thrilled that at first we kind of looked like we were alone a little bit. Like, hey, we need some money for the trail. And I'm like, okay, anybody else going to kick in here? I know it's in Grant and all, but then when the full story comes out, it's like, well, this is a community effort. This is all the way across. And Grant's, really, the only big thing really built in Grant is the schools. And we're pretty proud of that overall. So yeah, for me, this one isn't too tough. But quick question for you. Curbs on that. There's going to be a curb running along that. I would assume a concrete curb and gutter system there.
Yeah, the project under construction proposes to actually narrow the county highway slightly and then add concrete curb and gutter to the stoplight.
Okay, and where is that water going to?
That water will be part of the new storm sewer system. The water will drain to the west. There's a new stormwater basin in the southeast corner at Hilton Trail that will treat that water before it leaves the site.
That's why you've been doing the improvements over there. on those. Okay, I was wondering about that. So we've got curbs. How about improvements at the school entrance itself? It seems like the kids are gonna be going across high speed, for lack of a better term, a highway here, an undivided highway. So how about improvements there?
Yeah, Mayor, the signal that was put in there, I believe in 2022-ish, that was set up for this pedestrian crossing. So that is, again, the safest way for us to get kids across busy county highways. And as I understand it, the school led a Safe Routes to School program and has also applied for grant funding to develop their trail system within the school grounds.
Okay, so that was really where I was going. There is no trail system there yet, and it's really not planned yet, but they are applying for some funding on that.
Correct.
Yeah, because that's the parents get pretty packed in there, and it's hard to really have good sight lines when you're going around all those corners. So, good to know on that. Gentlemen, other questions here? Tom?
Yeah, Kevin, we talked a little bit about, also there's an extension, we had a community group that came forward, wanted a light on the county road. No, that's not gonna work. But at that time I mentioned, why don't you talk to whoever's planning 12 to see if you can get a sidewalk? And you wanna explain what's been going on with that, on that topic?
Yeah, Mayor, Councilmember, the county also, utilizing our own efforts, has applied for our own Safe Routes to School grant to actually extend the trail from the Matamidi Middle School stoplight east to Inwood Way. It's actually common that trail segments like that are built with developments. Unfortunately, that didn't happen here.
We tried.
Understood. But so we are pursuing grant funding for that. We're actually expected to hear next week or the week after, so fingers crossed on that. But that, similar to this, would also have to be approached as a county cost share policy item. So we may be back to discuss that at some point.
Did you have a question?
Oh, yeah, so the East Inwood, that's not part of the 7.3 million original project, that's gonna be separate?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember, we are reconstructing the roadway, but this trail segment will end at the Matamidi, or the middle school entrance stoplight. So it will not go east of there at this time.
Okay.
And to be clear, we will be constructing the segment we're discussing tonight actually next year in 2025. Based on timing, we weren't able to get it into the current project. So we will be constructing that separately next year, if things are approved here tonight.
If things go well. You've been working on this since what, 2016, 17?
Roughly, yeah.
And you started all the way out, you were almost at the lake, weren't you, when you started this?
Yeah, ultimately, we've constructed County Highway 12 from the county line, Century Avenue,
Yeah.
all the way east almost to Kimbrough over the past 6 years. So we've made some significant investments here.
Yeah.
And many of those, frankly, were pedestrian centered, right? With this trail connection, you could easily walk to I think it's Walgreens or CVS in Ramsey County, with a safe connection.
No, it
John's got
looks good. It really does. John?
Yes, I was gonna ask, the grant that you received from the federal government, why did they arrive at that number instead of the full 316? I'm just curious, why did they give that amount so specific? And when you submitted the entire 316, I assume, why did they do that?
Yeah, Councilmember, the grants we secure they're through the Regional Solicitation Program, which is administered by the Metropolitan Council. These grants require a 20% local cost share, so they're only 80% grants. And frankly, we got a similar grant of much larger scale through the same program for the reconstruction at Highway 36 and Lake Elmo Avenue. So same program, same 20% local match, just obviously a much larger scale and different project.
All right, thanks.
It's like they want us to have skin in the game.
Kevin, I found this entertaining. What was the cost of the trail to go to the new development if we go farther east? Didn't you say it was like $1 million you applied for the grant?
Yeah, Councilmember, I did do some digging and I have it here, bear with me.
Grace?
So the $1 million I quoted was the trail from Ideal all the way to Inwood. So the section,
That's even better, okay.
yeah, from the Matamidi Middle School to the east is, in that $550,000 range.
Okay, so if that was successful, then you might be coming back to us for a little bit.
We may, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we, again, would have to approach that project under the county's cost.
I just have something to talk about in general. We did talk about, we got some money from the state, first time in a long time. We're using for safety issues and stuff. We kind of allocated some of that, but now this has kind of come up. And, to me, this is time is of the essence that we need to get this done. Guardrails haven't been out here for over 100 years, so we have to wait a little longer to put those in again and get this project done and/or the other one, which you don't know about yet. May not even happen. I think that's great. I think it's great to have sidewalks on both sides. I know somebody in here had somebody killed on Hilton Trail back in the day. I had a friend killed right in front of the high school. It's dangerous. I don't want the kids, distracted drivers, young drivers. It's really our busiest bustling little spot. And so I don't anticipate doing this anywhere else in Grant, but that spot, being part of the community, not having a sidewalk to nowhere basically, would not make any sense to me. So I'm glad we're here and talking about this, and I had a chance to vote on it, so thank you.
Yeah. That brings up a good point, money, how we're gonna handle this. Kevin, do you have anything else to tell us, or maybe we're gonna go ahead and switch to a sort of an internal discussion here? That's been
happy
very
to take a seat.
informative, so hang out, don't leave, we might call you back up for money questions
here.
or something
Thanks,
here.
Kevin.
Tom's right, we've got public safety funds, there's just over $100,000 in a public safety fund. Not the COVID funds, the public safety funds, very, very different accounts, so just over $100,000 in there. Now, the interesting thing is, after looking at the budget very closely, we have a line item in there where we had put money over 7 years back, if memory serves properly, and what we were doing was banking money toward county cooperative projects. We were waiting to hear from you guys on some of these projects, so we're kind of trying to save up a little bit. We've got $20,000 in it that's been sitting there for years. So, I know that we have people in the audience. We have an educational foundation, booster foundation, if you will, primarily based in the city of Montemita, that has talked about raising money. We've got $20,000 sitting in the cooperative county account. We have over $100,000 in safety funds. I don't think, from my perspective, it is reasonable to have, considering those circumstances and what seems to be the sentiment among the council, to have an educational booster group from another city give us money to get this done when the county's done so much hard work. Montemita is kicked in. I think that we can afford the $30,000 in total, and I think it is a good use of $20,000 that's been sitting there for years and years. And the $10,000 coming out of the public safety fund seems to me to be the way to go. Comments, gentlemen, thoughts on this?
I agree.
Kiefer?
Yeah.
Well, I agree with you, but the fact that they're willing to kick in 15K
Yep.
speaks to the commitment of the residents and the importance of them for this project, so.
Right, and it's a safety factor. We've
Yeah,
heard some
safety.
pretty compelling stories on the safety factor. I've seen these kids dancing across the street, and that's what they do. I've given kids rides home that live in Ideal. When my daughter was over there, my son was over there, giving them rides when we went to pick up my son and my daughter. So, yeah, I would think that the city of Grant, to put these dollars toward this use, is a good use of this. We make sure kids get to school safely, and, yeah, I like the overall feel of it, and I like Montemita kicking in.
Well, and since we know about the other maybe grant, the sentiment for me, obviously, I think this is a no-brainer. And whether the Montemita community, wants to, give us money or not, I just put that aside. If we can pay the 30 grand and be done. But the other one, that's gonna be a little bit more, probably. But I don't want them coming back in 2 weeks and asking us. I'd be for that one too, as long as we get the grant money.
Yeah, we'll
So I
see
think
how
I'd
it
like to know
goes.
what the council thinks of that.
Well, I think I'd like to wait until I see the project, for me. I'm not making any promises till I see the
Well,
project. and
in
what the grant
theory,
is.
I agree with that.
In theory, yeah, in theory, it's a good
Okay,
idea.
In theory? Okay,
Yeah, in theory.
that's enough.
Yep.
In theory, Bob?
Kim?
Mr. Mayor and council members, I will just note that the cooperative agreement that was in your council packet had been reviewed by the city attorney as well as the city engineer, and it is ready to go tonight.
Okay, are you looking for a motion on this, Kim?
I most certainly am.
Can I ask one more question, Mr. Mayor?
Sure.
When it talks about, no maintenance, we're not committing to repave it, are we? All right, that's all I needed. I saw Fran shaking his head no, so.
That would be another one of those discussions, right, Kevin?
Yeah, Mayor, Councilmember, the county completes any major maintenance of trails by practice.
There you go.
Minor maintenance would be expected to be done by the locals, but we can handle that case by case too.
Okay, so, thank you, sir.
Great.
So,
Go ahead.
does any other council members have comments, or that I can make a motion? I just wanna make sure everyone has their chance to.
Do we have a number on this, Kim?
It's a cooperative. You are
Just
making a
cooperative.
motion
Just make the
to,
motion and go to agree with the cooperative agreement. Okay.
Are you good, John? Anything for you?
Oh,
Okay. I would like to make the motion
To approve the cooperative agreement with the county.
to approve the Washington County Cooperative Agreement.
I second.
Councilmember Carr,
Absolutely, yes.
Councilmember Rogg,
Aye.
Councilmember Kiefer,
Aye.
Councilmember Tufti,
Aye.
Mayor Huber.
Aye. Thanks, Kim. And thanks, everybody, for coming. This one, once we get all the information, it was kind of a no-brainer. So appreciate it all. Appreciate the work the county has done on this, because I know you guys are really working it over there. By the way, I got a call from the Montemita Fire Department today. They're not happy with you tearing up their road in front. You probably hear from that guy.
Mr. Mayor, would you like to take a 5-minute recess for?
I think we should, yeah, because we got a lot of folks here that may not be interested in some of the other stuff that we have going on. So why don't we take 5 minutes, and folks can just kind of, if you want to shuffle out or if you want to stay, it's up to you. We'd love to keep you, but if you don't want to interrupt the meeting and you got dinner to make, it's probably a good time to do it now. So 5 minutes. Everybody's staying, all
Might be
right.
exciting.
Go ahead and call our meeting back into order at 7:18. I hope that clock's right. 7:18. So Ken, just let us know when you're back to recording and we'll get it moving on. We are live. Our city planner, Jennifer Haskamp. No, that was a break. I can call those back and forth. Thank you. Jennifer Haskamp, we have the consideration of the preliminary plat, Elliot Crossing, and we've got a public hearing. So Kim, do you need a motion to go into the public hearing, or how do we handle this? We haven't had one of these in months.
Jennifer does her staff report, and after she's done with that, or if you have any questions of her, we then open the public hearing.
Fantastic, Kim, a fount of knowledge. Without her, I don't know what would happen. Jennifer, are you there?
I am.
Hi, Jen.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, welcome back. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I've got a presentation to walk us through. I'm hitting the wrong button, so I should probably actually share my screen. Let's see here. There we go. All right, so as you mentioned, we have an application before us this evening for a preliminary plat, and we also have 2 variances that are associated with the request this evening. That the proposed preliminary plat name is Elliot Crossing. The applicant this evening is Mike Regan. He is on behalf of More Development, and then also there's a gentleman by the name of Mark on behalf of Fenway Development that is also participating in the plat. In the application this evening. The subject parcels are generally located southwest of the intersection of CASA 12 and CASA 17. It's approximately 194 acres in size, so a fairly large subdivision that we're taking a look at. The zoning is A2. There are 4 PIDs that are associated with the application, so it's slightly irregular in shape, which we'll take a look at in just a moment. And as you noted, we do have a public hearing that is scheduled for this evening. So the applicant is proposing to subdivide the property into 18 lots. We've got essentially 2 block configurations that are associated with the subdivision. One is on the westerly parcels, that is block 1 and is proposed to be configured into 12 lots. There is an easterly subdivision portion that is proposed to be subdivided into 6 lots, although I will note that one of those lots is already a lot of record, which we'll look at in just a moment. The 2 blocks are not proposed to connect, so this is a little bit of a unique situation from the standpoint of we've got 2 proposed cul-de-sacs. They are separated, but adjoin essentially an outlot. So the roadway is not proposed to connect both of those blocks within the subdivision. Each lot, much like we've looked at before, in similar types of projects, will be custom graded, custom homes will be constructed. The lot sizes range from approximately 5 acres to just over 18 acres. They will be subject to architectural design standards and a homeowners association that will be associated with these 2 blocks in particular, and each lot will be served by a private well and septic system. As I mentioned, there's 2 outlots that are associated with the proposed subdivision. Outlot A actually contains 3 of the golf course holes that are associated with the Indian Hills Golf Course. That reconfiguration, if you all recall, happened in 2020 and 2021. There was some regrading that went on out there. They relocated 3 of the holes. because the prior location were flooding, and so obviously it was affecting the playability of the course. So the outlot now, outlot A, will contain those 3 golf holes that were reconfigured a couple years ago. When we went through that process in 2020 and 2021, the 3 holes were actually just put into a easement area with the idea that eventually they were going to develop the subject parcels. And then as part of that, they would formally plat it, which is what they are proposing to do this evening in Outlot A. Outlot B lies south of the proposed cul-de-sac that's identified as Street A, which is on the preliminary plat. That outlot is very irregular in shape, which we'll take a look at in just a moment. And there's a reference to the fact that it would be landscaped and managed by the HOA, but no specific plans were provided with respect to the preliminary plat. And it is quite irregular in shape, as I noted. The 2 cul-de-sacs both connect to county roads. So one is CSA 12 on the north, the other is CSA 17, which is on the east. So both cul-de-sacs actually are required to get access permits from Washington County, which the applicant has noted that they've been working with Washington County on what improvements to the county roads would be required in order for that to happen. The county has indicated that new turn lanes on CSA 12 would be required for that cul-de-sac. And to the best of my knowledge, nothing on CSA 17 would be required as a result of the 6 lots or the 5 lots that would access from CSA 17. So in both cases, the cul-de-sac lengths exceed the maximum permitted, which is 1,320 feet. As a result, there is actually a variance request that is associated with each cul-de-sac to exceed our maximum permitted length. So as an overview, here is the proposed plat. You can see that we've got the easterly cul-de-sac connecting to CSA 12. It runs north-south, as opposed to the cul-de-sac that is coming in from CSA 17 on the east side of the project, and that will run east to west. You can see from this configuration that Outlot A adjoins and is what is adjacent to both of these blocks that would be subdivided. The cul-de-sacs, as they are designed, do not connect through that area. It's a bit difficult to see probably on your screens, but I would note for folks watching at home or in the audience that along this easterly border of the cul-de-sac that runs north-south, if you can see my cursor, the Fen, which is a wetland complex that the Browns Creek Watershed District has identified as being significant and has a preserved wetland designation, does require increased setbacks for any development that occurs on that particular parcel. So we've got basically the golf holes, and then we also do have some significant wetlands that are on the site that had to be contended with as the development design got put together. So the existing conditions, we covered a bit of this. It's 194 acres plus or minus. Historically, it's been used for a mix of agricultural production. The golf holes were relocated. There's some natural areas, and then there was a historic street line from the early 1900s that went through the property. The station was Elliot Crossing, which is where the name for the proposed project comes from, and which is kind of cool and would harken back to the history. And the parcels, as I said, actually have quite a bit of mix of wetlands and woodland areas, particularly as they're associated with that Fen area. So you can kind of see from this aerial, the outlot, if you can see my cursor, it does come through sort of these easterly parcels. Those 3 holes then bisect the 2 lot configurations or block configurations. When we went through that, if you recall back in the day, we talked a little bit about how there's a conditional use permit and a planned unit development that were associated with the Indian Hills subdivision, which are the subdivisions that lie south of this particular area. And we essentially just amended the conditional use permit to add those 3 holes and that outlot area. And we did that by an easement description. So essentially, this doesn't change anything from that perspective, except for it does put that area into the outlot. So the property is guided rural residential agricultural, and it is zoned A2. In this case, we look at rural residential types of uses, accessory uses that would be conducive or compatible with rural residential development. In this case, they are proposing a development that is consistent with that, and it does meet the density requirements of 4 per 40 or 1 per 10, whichever way you want to look at it. When we go through this, we do basically a 2-part analysis. We have the subdivision standards section, and then we also have the zoning dimensional standards. In this case, we do have easements that have been identified and dedicated on all of the lots, which are shown on the preliminary plat. Our lots are generally complying with all the standards except as noted, which I'll walk through in just a moment. There was a note within the review that one of the lots actually did not comply with the frontage, and that is incorrect. I think it was a typing error on my part, and so all the lots are complying with that frontage requirement. In terms of the lot line standards, we do have a requirement that lot lines should be basically straight or radial to cul-de-sacs. In this case, we do have one particular area between lots 3 and 4 on block 2 that does have a slight jog, which you can see on this graphic. It also happens to be associated with lot 3, which is slightly substandard. And by slightly, I mean it's about 50 square feet under the requirement to meet the 5 acre. So staff is recommending that there's just some minor adjustments to this particular lot and this area to make sure that we're complying with that side yard lot line standard and then also the area standard, but a very minor adjustment in terms of the plat. All of the lots in block 1 and block 1 meet the standard minimum lot area, minimum lot width. So it's very straightforward from that perspective. Block 2, again, it's a correction to the frontage. Everything does meet for the frontage perspective. And we do have that slightly substandard lot size that we would request be adjusted just to ensure that we're meeting and complying with that standard as well as that side yard lot line standard. Moving on to block 2, we've got this somewhat irregular situation. It actually is somewhat similar to what we talked about earlier during the concept plan, but lot 6 that's associated with that block is actually an old outlot from the Indian Hills subdivision. It is identified, if you go back into the records from the 1970s, it was part of the CUP and the PUD. The applicant actually was able to provide a document from the 80s that explicitly accepted outlot B out of that PUD and CUP. So from that standpoint, it was no longer subject to the covenants or the rules that were established for the CUP and the PUD. And so as a result, then we took a look at it from, is this an existing lot of record? In this case, the parcel does exceed 2.5 acres. It is 5.35 acres. So it meets our exception standards. And within that exception standard, we do then provide some additional exceptions from lot frontage in particular, and lot size, et cetera. In this case, we would be looking at an exception from the lot frontage standard, but it does comply with those exception criteria. As I said, there is that wetland complex that goes through the center of the site. I'm sure some of you recall when we were looking at the golf holes that the Browns Creek Watershed District in particular was very interested in making sure that that FEN, that wetland complex is protected and that any development is as far away as possible from that wetland area. Obviously, that plays a little bit into the variance discussion, which we will look at in just a moment, but Essentially, those natural features are certainly significant and dictate sort of how the development could be laid out. In terms of our standards with respect to lot remnants, Outlot A really isn't a remnant in this case because it's providing a specific function. It has the golf holes. It is tied into that conditional use permit and PUD in terms of the golf course itself. Outlot B is the outlot that is contiguous to lot 5 and block 2. It shares just a very small border. It's about 40 feet on the side yard that it shares with that lot. And then it is quite irregular in shape and size. There's a note in the applicant's narrative that where this outlot is, that no further subdivision can occur in this area, and that only one lot would be permitted. And so there's a little bit of is there an issue from that perspective or not? But that outlot B doesn't necessarily comply with our standards because typically we say outlots either have to be adjoined to a lot or there needs to be an acceptable plan to the council with respect to that outlot. Obviously, the idea being we want to know what could happen to it in the future and then also how it's going to be maintained. The cul-de-sac streets, as I mentioned, both of them require a variance from our standard. You can see by the pink and the blue that we're looking at on Street A. There's about a 675 foot, 678 foot requested variance from our standard. The length would be about 1,998 or 2,000 feet in length. Street B requires a variance of about 556 feet. In both cases, the applicant has indicated the presence of both the golf holes and the wetlands being the main justification for why they're requesting the variance from the standard. And in this case, obviously to access sort of the further in or the deeper parts of those parcels, obviously you're likely to exceed that 1320 maximum length. However, obviously, we have to look at the variance criteria with respect to whether we can justify that extension. So the applicant has indicated that initial lot, especially for Street A, can't be further subdivided. So part of the challenge is you have to get across that easterly parcel, and to get across that parcel to access the other areas is over 1,300 feet in length as it stands. So from that perspective, to access the developable area or the subdividable area, that you're going to exceed that length. And that then the presence of the golf course and then the wetlands in that particular area make it non-conducive to being able to connect the roadway to the other block or block 1. And so from that perspective, staff's really looking for some additional discussion by the council with respect to whether you believe it's met the criteria for a practical difficulty, whether there's clearly challenges associated with the wetland, but whether or not the exceeding the length is justified on Street A. As for Street B, the main justification for that, again, is tied to the fen and the existing wetland complex that's out there. And then also the ability to, obviously, you wouldn't want to cross, once again, that outlot A, which contains the golf holes. So from that perspective, we're looking at sort of the same justification for both, slightly different, little bit of a nuanced difference between the variance request for Street A versus Street B, but both of them are tied to that golf course location and then also the wetlands. All right, in terms of the overall design of the cul-de-sacs, if we take out the length analysis out of it, as they're designed, they do meet the city's specification and the standard. Brad has reviewed the plans as well and provided a memo. They will be required, as we work through this process, to comply with all of the recommendations of the city engineer, but as it stands, they are meeting the specification for width, shoulders, pavement width, all of those things. So moving on to the dimensional standards, the density, as I noted, there's about 194 acres that exist. They are proposing 18 units. So we're looking at about, on average, 10.8 acre lots. We've got a 1 per 10 requirement. We are complying with the density standards as it's proposed. We would suggest that we put a condition in the preliminary plat and the final plat likely as well that no further subdivision is permitted in this case to ensure that we're complying with that density standard. As I mentioned, all of the lot sizes do comply with the standard with the one exception, which is just shy of that 5 acre mark. And we would suggest that a minor modification happen to that lot line. And I think by straightening it out, we would likely get up to that 5 acre threshold. All the lots meet our buildable area requirement, which requires that we have 1 acre of buildable on all lots. As I noted, there's a correction to the staff report. They are all meeting the lot frontage requirement as it's designed. In terms of the septic design, each lot has a primary and a secondary identified. I will note that I did not receive the preliminary review memo from Washington County that typically looks at our plats, or excuse me, looks at the septic, initial septic results to determine whether or not everything looks good. So we would recommend that move forward and that we get that information. But as it stands, the design does include a primary and a secondary on each lot. So in terms of that lot 6 block 2, that is the one that was the holdover from Indian Hills. We did look through the exception criteria as it stands. It does qualify for the existing lot of record, and it would be accepted from the frontage requirement as a result of it, just with how the language in the ordinance has been reworded over the last few years. The city engineer has looked at it. There's a recommendation in his memo with respect to how the access to that lot would occur and extension of the right-of-way so that instead of the looping driveway, that perhaps it comes straight off the end. I do know that there were some reasons from the applicant's perspective to construct the driveway as they proposed on the plat. And so I do believe that that is something that could be worked out between now and either the next version of the preliminary plat or the final plat. Either way, I think it's a pretty minor piece that we could resolve. The city engineer is taking a look at the stormwater and the erosion control. He provided a brief overview of his recommendation in his memo. Obviously, our standards are also subject to the Browns Creek Watershed District, which obviously has some very strict requirements, especially because we're dealing with that fen on the subject property. So in terms of the engineering standards, which is typical, we reference the fact that in the draft conditions that all of the engineering comments must be addressed, and if necessary, updated preliminary plat document must be prepared to reflect those recommended changes. We are recommending that we'll follow up with Washington County to get written documentation of the recommendation for the roadway improvements. So the turn lanes on on CASA 12, excuse me, and then also just to confirm that nothing is necessary on CASA 17. And then also that we would not want to grant any final plat until we have the preliminary review from Washington County for those septic sites to ensure that all the lots have a primary and a secondary drain field on them. So this evening, what we're looking for from the City Council is some discussion on the variance requests for Street A and Street B. And then also with respect to the configuration of Outlot B and what an acceptable plan for that Outlot B may be. And then the modified access to Lot 6 and Block 2 as recommended by the city engineer. So with that, we also went ahead and drafted several conditions for your consideration. Many of them are as we've seen in the past, but obviously some of them are specific to this application, including making some minor adjustments to make sure that the preliminary plat complies with all of our standards. So I'm not going to go through all the conditions, but would be happy to discuss any of them if you have questions. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I am going to turn it back over to you for any questions you guys might have.
That was complex, Jennifer. Thank you for covering that in such detail. Your conditions look good to me, but let's see what the council has to say. First, Mr. Giefer, your hand was up there.
Yeah, so Jennifer, for the first two variances for the cul-de-sacs, I couldn't find anything in the conditions that address that, like what mitigating design features would be proposed to mitigate the extra cul-de-sac length.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, there's no conditions per se associated with that. What would happen is, if you're accepting of the variance in the next resolution, because of course we don't have the resolution before you this evening, the resolution would be in your packet. There would be findings related to the criteria of the practical difficulties, et cetera, as to why we are permitting the additional length. So there's not really a mitigation per se, it's more findings related to the fact that the variance from that standard is acceptable and that practical difficulties did exist. And those practical difficulties in this case would likely be associated with the wetland, the fen that's on the site, and then also the 3 golf holes that are on Outlot A.
Makes sense. Okay, let's talk about variances for a second. They're granted by a council rarely, but they are granted as a result of practical difficulty resulting from the land. It is not an uncomfortable situation for a landowner. It is not a problem where they want to build something. There is a practical difficulty with the land. In this case, Browns Creek, and I'm sure even federal authorities would be very, very concerned if anything were to happen to their wetland there. You'd be surprised how concerned they get about these wetlands. They're very, very strict with them. So that would be a practical difficulty that would preclude him from connecting those two. So the only way to really mitigate that would be to grant some sort of a variance, perhaps with conditions, perhaps not. But that's the way something like that would be handled. Further questions, Mr. Giefer?
So we can determine those conditions.
Yes, we will
Okay.
perhaps ask the developer and the owner to provide certain assurances in order to provide that variance. Tom?
Yeah, my history with all the developments we've done too is a quarter mile is really what they want, because that's how far emergency responders would have to carry their stuff if the road was blocked. So does Washington County Fire, EMT's got to sign off on this too? Especially since it's a variance. I don't know the answer to the question. Yeah.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, in the past, you have requested review by our fire and also other emergency services to review it and provide us their comments. In this case, we haven't done it yet, but if that is at your direction this evening, we can certainly do that before a resolution would come back before you on your next meeting. So, and we have certainly done that in the past.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, that is definitely something, on a road this length, surrounded by an awful lot of trees, some open areas, sure there's a lot of wetlands, but a stiff west breeze and a spark could be a problem in this type of development. I have considered what Jennifer just said and talked about it beforehand. I've got some notes regarding having the fire chief in charge of these areas, and I believe they're both Montemita, if I'm not mistaken, to provide his input on the plat as laid out, the inability to get between the two developments without coming down and around, and getting his input on this. That would certainly be something that I would provide for if I were to consider the variance moving forward. Other questions? Bob, John? You okay at this point?
Questions for me?
I'm sorry?
No questions for me.
Okay, real good. John, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I guess the variances make sense with making sure that they're 5 acres, and then I believe that we should probably talk to Montemita to determine if they agree on something like that.
Yeah, we could actually make it a condition, in fact, and Jennifer could put it on her conditions, which would probably be the best way to handle it. Tom?
Well, I think she just said that, so we gotta do it now, if we do it, is that
Well,
what you're
yeah.
suggesting, we have to do it now?
At the end here, let's.
No, I understand that, but I just wanna,
Yeah, no,
right,
yeah,
tonight, we need to do it,
We
right,
put it
Jennifer?
on, yeah, we put it on.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's how we handle those, we put it on now. So Jennifer, I'm gonna keep going, I got a couple other questions for you, if it's all right, council, I'm gonna jump in here. Browns Creek, we've had an awful lot of flooding in this area, and this development will not be far from a ponding area that we had to pump out, and when I say we, I mean Mike, stepped in and did a lot of pumping in that area to protect some of the homes in the Sunnybrook area. The opinion of, have we heard from Browns Creek on this yet, or it has not been submitted to them yet, I would assume?
So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, it's my understanding that it has been submitted to them, but it is still working through their permit process and review process.
And of course, one of the conditions is that the watersheds always approve of how they're handling the water. I'm concerned because we're really putting in, because of the difficulty of the land, we're putting in a lot of hard surface, a lot more than we normally would in 8 or 10 homes, right? With the length of the streets is what I'm talking about.
Right, I would say that the length of the street is certainly longer than what we've looked at in the past. So certainly associated with that, there would be an increase in impervious. Obviously, that all has to be looked at from the stormwater management plan perspective. And I know I am with you that Browns Creek Watershed District is incredibly strict, especially in this particular area.
Yeah, they spent an awful lot of money in that area to do the mitigation, so that's why I just wanted to kind of run that by you and make sure that we were all cognizant of that. The Outlot B, you discussed that very quickly. Outlot B, normally we have outlots that are attached to developed lots so that they can be maintained, that type of thing. And that, is that still what you consider a loose string in terms of how Outlot B is handled? Maintained? Maybe better
Yeah,
word.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, typically we require outlots to be either adjoined to a neighboring adjacent parcel so that it has some ownership, or that there's a specific plan for how that outlot is going to be maintained and restricted from development in the future. So in this case, it's south of the new cul-de-sac and it's quite irregular in shape. And there's not a specific plan for how it would be managed. So from that perspective, I think the way that it's drafted is to say that we either need an acceptable management plan that you're comfortable with, or there needs to be a way to reconfigure it slightly so that it's adjoined to a lot and is managed and is part of another private lot. So that's typically how we look at it.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I perhaps missed it. Was that one of the conditions in there, the handling of the Outlot B with the HOA, or a lot line readjustment there, or a road adjustment?
So I have it as a discussion item and then thought, depending on what your preference was and the direction to the applicant, that we would then place it as a condition in the draft conditions, essentially.
Okay. Okay, so that's something we can talk to the applicant about. One more time, and just because feeling a little slow, a lot on the plate here, in lot number 8, the holdover lot, can you run the council through that just one more time so that we understand the history of that and how that works?
So it's actually lot 6 with block 2. It is at the end of 69th Street. That was historically it was initially platted, I should say. It was initially platted as part of the Indian Hills subdivision and was subject to the conditional use permit and the planned unit development that were associated with that subdivision. In the 80s, that parcel was removed or accepted from that planned unit development and conditional use permit. And as a result, is now subject to, is this a lot of record or is it not? And so once again, we go back to does it exceed 2.5 acres? It does in this case. Was it created prior to the enactment of the ordinance? In this case, it does, and it did. And so essentially then it follows that it is eligible for those exceptions, provided it can meet the other standards. So in this case, it's 5.35 acres. There's definitely 1 acre, most likely 1 acre of buildable area on that parcel. It can site a septic system, primary and secondary drain field, and a well, et cetera. So from that perspective, even though it doesn't meet the lot frontage requirement, that's one of the exceptions that we provided for if it meets that existing lot of record criteria. And so in this case, because it was taken out of that conditional use permit and planned unit development, it is eligible for that exception.
Only other things that I have are 1 or 2 questions for the applicant. So gentlemen, unless there's something else that you'd like to speak to Jennifer about, we should probably open our public hearing and hear from our public. Gentlemen?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Good? Good? Okay. Kim, do you want a motion to move into public or into our hearing here?
Yes, please.
Okay. Gentlemen,
Make the motion.
do I have a second to enter into the hearing? And Mr. Rock?
Councilmember Carr?
Aye.
Councilmember Rock?
Aye.
Councilmember Kiefer?
Aye.
Councilmember Tufti?
Aye.
Mayor Huber?
Aye. Thank you, Kim. I'd like those who would like to comment on this new development that is under review right now, the plat that's under review, to come on up to our microphone stand here. Please put down your name and your address for us, please, just so that we have that record in case we need to get back to you with facts or other things that you might like to talk about. So go ahead. Public hearing is open.
Mr. Mayor, I will note, we do have people on the line.
Okay, well, let's see if we can get some people from our audience first, and then we'll go right to the people online. Is there anyone here for the public hearing? Ladies, gentlemen? All right, very good then. Oh, we have a gentleman standing. Come on up, sir. And if you would sign in for us on the sheet there, and tell us your name.
Matthew Eddy, and I live at 7060 Lake Elmo Avenue North, so the east cul-de-sac will be in my backyard with a road right next to our property and a house sitting on the back edge. I guess my first question is, are cluster developments legal or are they not legal in Grant?
I would let our planner handle that question. I don't believe this is a cluster development, frankly, but I think our planner might have something to say on that. I think it's a good question.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we do not, well, first of all, I wouldn't say that this is a cluster development. What we require is a minimum of 5 acres for all newly created lots, and the overall density in a particular project or area or 40 acre cannot exceed 4 dwelling units per 40 acres. So the best example I can give is like on a 40 acre parcel, you can have 3 5-acre lots, for example, because those meet the minimum lot size, and then the remaining lot is 15 acres or 25 acres, excuse me. So from that perspective, you're allowed to go down as small as 5 acres. That's our minimum lot size, but the overall density cannot exceed 4 dwelling units per 40 acres.
Okay, what you just described is a cluster development. Okay, by definition, is a cluster development. And that monstrosity across the street from me, White Hope Hill, whatever it is, the one on the other side of Lake Elmo Avenue on the, so the east, southeast. There you go. That, not only is it a cluster development, but during the process, and again, I was ignorant to the process and was unavailable for the Browns Creek meeting, but when they came out with their notification for public comment, I was out of town, but it defines that as a cluster development. And I kept the card, and I'm not sure why, but for this day, apparently, that is defined as a cluster development and should have never been built that way. But I'm extremely concerned that exactly what you described, people aren't gonna own those golf holes. That is set aside as part of a park, and if you look up any definition of a cluster development, it's putting dwellings on one side and leaving the other area open for a different purpose. In this place, it's playing golf. I don't mind that if the owner of the land develops it. I would just like it done according to our current laws.
Okay.
And it was hard to tell on the screen where the entry point is off of Lake Elmo Avenue, but that the entry into the other development, eventually someone's going to be killed there. Every time we turn into our driveway to make a left turn as we're going north on Lake Elmo Avenue, if there's a car behind us, 9 times out of 10, they skirt around us, drive on the shoulder through the right turn lane, and scoot back in. Eventually, someone's gonna be turning left into the neighborhood or pulling out, and there's gonna be an accident. And I'm concerned that the same scenario, now you're gonna add another street just beyond that. Cars gonna be coming out of the new development or turning off of Lake Elmo Avenue, going south to turn in. He's gonna be slowing down. Either my neighbor is going to be pulling out of his driveway, seeing that it's clear, and the car is gonna pass him on the left and kill him. So I know this, there's a way to get this done properly, but what I saw is not legal in Grant, and that there has to be a better way to develop that land in conjunction with the rules that we currently have in place.
Thank you. Jennifer? Confirm for me that the lots go from 5 acres to 18.76 acres individually, is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Some of them have 5 acres, some of them have up to 18.76 acres. I understand your concerns, but I'm gonna hold my comments for now, probably not the correct time. Is there anyone else here who would like to step up to public comment? Any other residents? No? Very good. Let's go ahead and switch to our internet callers then. We're so high-tech. Kim?
See here, we have, yeah.
Hello.
Hello, you're on.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm gonna keep following up on the golf course,
Can you give
and
me your
I
address?
apologize, for not being able to track this.
Sir?
But how does the golf
Sir? Can you hear
course-
me, sir?
Yep,
Sir, can you hear me? Can we get your full name and your address and grant, please, sir?
yep, it's Greg Freitag, 9411 Joliet Avenue, 1974 grad of Withrow Elementary,
There
and 1980 grad of Montemedi.
you go. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Greg, Mr. Freitzel, please go right ahead, sir. Sorry about that.
Thank you. I just always try to follow the money. So I don't understand the golf course and what deal was cut that has part of the golf course being part of the property that allows it to be added to all of this to get the acreage requirements. And I'm sorry if I'm dull, but it seemed to me that it was that parcel that helps to create the problem of the length of the cul-de-sac. And my final piece of this is a shorter cul-de-sac just means less money for the developer at the end of the day. And so there seems to be a lot of just interesting pieces to this that don't fit based on trying to force this in a lot of parties that I don't understand how they fit together.
Okay, so if I may go ahead and summarize that, sir, the parts that we're going to be able to answer. You're concerned about the golf lots that were placed into an easement, and now they are associated with the overall development property in order to meet the sizes. Do I understand that correctly?
Correct, is those, if it's an easement, it's not an ownership, which means somebody cut a deal with the potential intent to pull this into this, to do this development, and that's concerning.
Okay, real good. On that, because we have a question of that type of importance, I'm gonna go ahead and bring Jennifer back on it. Jennifer, I don't really want you to answer that question in terms of its legality, but I'd like you to describe the situation in which this easement created and is being used, if you would, please.
So I'll do my best to answer, um, from an ownership perspective. All of the land is owned by the same owner, including the area that has the current easement for the 3 golf holes. So there wasn't a separate deal that was cut, so to speak. The whole 194 acres is owned by the same party. And so currently when they relocated the relocated holes were shifted slightly from their current location. So where they were prior to 2022 or 2021, I think is actually the date. They actually did also extend onto the subject properties by easement. And so this could still remain an easement and the fee title could stay underneath it, so to speak, much the same way as we have lakes sometimes, where the lake lots will extend into the lake, if you will. Perhaps not the best example, but it's the one that's coming to mind at the moment. But the land itself is all owned by the same property owner. So there wasn't, to my knowledge, which obviously I am not part of the deal, if you will, but to my knowledge, there was nobody had to transfer or purchase the golf course rights, if you will, because it's all owned by the same individual, the same party.
So the easement was owned by that same party, so that easement was attached, in other words, Jennifer, if I might, in order to create a somewhat larger lot to 194 acres. Is that just a simpler explanation for it? It was joined as an easement.
Well, it's not even like the fee title of the whole land, the whole underlying parcel is all together. The 194 acres, which includes 3 existing golf holes, is all together as it stands today by the same owner.
To be cut whatsoever, because the
Jennifer,
owner
maybe
owned
this
it
is a
all.
simple
Hang on a
question.
second, hang
So
on.
when you're looking at
Yeah.
your overall 40 acres to 4 homes and the 5 acre minimum, are you able to have a 40 acre parcel give an easement to 10 acres of it and still put 4 homes on 4 acres or on 10 acres and not on the easement property? Right? Because you may own it, but if you've given an easement to it, you don't have the right to it, so you're forcing the density into the rest of your acreage, which seems to me to be against what it is that we're trying to do with those minimum requirements.
Yeah. It's an interesting proposal, and frankly, sir, that may require a lawyer to answer it. I don't want to stick my foot in my mouth, but it's not 4 houses per 10, it's 4 per 40. And if the 194 acres is attached to this and one owner owns all of it, that can be considered part of the density, is my understanding of it. Now, whether or not it needs to be addressed further with an attorney, I won't even go there because I don't know. But I understand your point.
Thank you very much, I appreciate that. I will just tell you, having been retired, and these are the kind of things that I used to look at, that's exactly what you start doing 10 years ago in order to position yourself for things today to do these sorts of things. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Somebody was looking ahead then. Do we have someone else? Anyone else?
If anyone would like to speak under the public hearing, raise your hand. No, we do not.
Okay, real good. If there's no one else in the audience, we're gonna go ahead and close down the public hearing. Once, twice, 3 times? Okay, need a motion to close our public hearing, gentlemen.
Motion to close hearing.
Thanks, Bob.
Councilmember Carr?
Aye.
Councilmember Rogg?
Aye.
Councilmember Giefer?
Aye.
Councilmember Tufti?
Aye.
Mayor Huber?
Aye, thank you, Kim. All right, let's jump back into it here. The last question that the gentleman on Joliet Avenue asked, I cannot answer. If anyone here can add some light to that, anyone on the council or any of our professional staff, might be nice to be able to answer that. It seems a little complex to answer at this point, at least without incurring any legal issues. Tom?
Well, first of all, the existing Indian Hills Golf Course is a PUD, which we don't allow. Which means you probably can't run water from the water tower out to those lots, I would assume. I'm just kidding, it's just a joke. Not a very funny one, but it's kind of a joke. So we don't allow PUDs. We did start going to this 5-acre minimum lot size, and as Jennifer described. That's never been called a cluster development. However, there's been concern with cluster developments where we leave these large acre parcels in the middle of 5-acre parcels, and Victoria Station's in my backyard. And then all of a sudden, somebody could come in there and say, hey, we want to build 1-acre lots and have a community septic and a community well. And it's like, well, we don't allow that. Not as long as I'm sitting up here, we're not going to allow that. And so this is just what we've been doing forever. I understand what he's trying to say. I don't think that's the case in this point. I'd have to research it a little bit more to see what exactly he's talking about. I have nothing in front of me. But yeah, we don't allow cluster developments, and I would never support them.
That's correct. And I would, for my part, defer to an attorney on that. I am not an attorney. I am not sticking my foot in my mouth like that.
Yeah, but I have an opinion, so.
Oh, no,
yeah,
opinion's
thank
great.
you.
No,
Thank
no,
you
no.
that I can share my opinion.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. I
You're very
appreciate that.
welcome. I would allow an
Really
attorney to
appreciate
do
that.
it for me, because I'm not gonna share opinions
Yeah,
when I don't
whatever.
know what I'm talking about.
24 years, I do 24 years sitting up
All
there.
right, let's keep going here, guys. The first one, not really a cluster development as we classify them that I'm aware of. This next question.
Jennifer's hands up.
Have an attorney handle it. Jennifer.
I just want, if I could just add one point to the conversation in terms of the cluster slash, we've got this outlot situation on this particular project. The total acres is 194 acres, which means that 1 per 10, you could have 19 lots. In this case, they're proposing 18 lots. And so there's one unit, if you will, one density unit that still remains. So the way from a planning perspective that I look at it is the outlot that has the golf holes on it. At the moment, we know those are golf holes. But if the golf course goes belly up, for lack of a better way of saying it, that outlot could become a lot and you're still at your 1 per 10, right? So that's why the no further subdivision statement is made, because that outlot would be the only other opportunity for there to be a unit, which would still comply with our 1 dwelling unit per 10 acres. So it's currently used for the 3 golf courses, or golf holes, excuse me, but that's a private use that we can't require that it remains a golf course. If the golf course closes, then typically what happens in a lot of these conversions is they go to the lowest residential use, if you will, which would be a residential unit. So just in terms of the density of the overall 194 acres, that 1 unit remains, which is part of the reason why the outlot B is a bit of an issue and why we typically don't let outlot remnants like that exist. We require them to be joined to another lot for that reason, because we don't want there to be any confusion that it could be a unit later on. So I don't know if that helps, but that's sort of some of the background.
It does,
analysis.
Jennifer, and it makes perfect sense, and we're following our development rules as written, and we continue to do that. What I'd like to do is just kind of move through this a little bit. You've all had a chance to take a look at the conditions that Jennifer has laid out. On cul-de-sacs this long, I think several members of the council would like to see before I grant a variance on this, have one of the conditions be a letter of the governing fire department, whichever area this is. I'm pretty sure it's Montemita complete, and have that fire chief sign off on these cul-de-sacs and make sure once he takes a look at these plats, he's gonna be able to access that no matter the conditions, or at least reasonable conditions. So a letter from the fire chief, and that would be part of the conditions as set. Tom?
Well, we have joint, so I think I talked to both of them to see who wants to go out and do it. Because we have joint response, so they probably, and that's right on the edge of Stillwater, so it might be good to do that.
Yeah.
I'd let them handle this, what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, Terry's already told me he's not gonna have Stewart involved, he wants to do it himself, so.
Oh, there you go.
we'll
Well,
leave it to
information
them.
I didn't have.
Yeah,
All right.
we'll leave that to them,
Okay.
and they can figure it out between them, so. That's one of the conditions, I think we've got some agreement on that one. you know, Jennifer, you've been pretty thorough as always on these conditions. Again, my main concerns are hard surface, the cul-de-sac variances that'll be required, that outlot B needs to be handled. And of course, Bronze Creek's gonna come through and take care of that hard surface. So just a concern, not a condition. Gentlemen, do we have other conditions that you'd like to see in here? Is there anything else that's kind of note or concern? Tom?
Well, I think Jennifer had some, we could go either way on stuff, you know, up to the applicant or anything we prefer. Jennifer, is it really concerning to you? Could we go either way, maybe whatever the applicant wants, as long as it's one or the other? What are your thoughts on that? Then we don't have to make those decisions.
With respect to outlot B,
Well, whatever
Is
the
that what
little
you're-
tweaks are, like, they can move the road, they can move the lot, they can combine lots, all that. I mean, do we care? I mean, is it necessary? Okay, so as long as the
No.
applicant does one or A or B of those options that you listed, you'd be okay with that?
right, and if they come up with a third, if they come up with a management solution of how that, if it's a detailed landscape plan, if there's a specific, deed restriction, I don't know what it looks like. But obviously this will be back before you at the June meeting. And if that's the solution, that would be in front of you also to make sure that you're okay with that. But any one of those three solutions is potentially viable.
I don't wanna
Or
micromanage
two
this
solutions,
for
either
them.
combine it or come up with a management plan or shift the road or whatever it looks like.
Okay, that's good enough for me.
You could assign it to the HOA is what you're saying. You'd be okay with that, making it? Okay. So the HOA can step in on that one, that's fine. I mean, if the road needs to go there, the road needs to go there, that's gonna be up to the applicant. So if the HOA is the best solution, the HOA is the best solution, right? Okay, anything else, guys?
Jennifer, are you looking for any action by the council this evening?
No, I'm looking for general, if you're comfortable with it, so we can prepare the resolution of, it sounds like approval. We would go and get the feedback and review in writing from the fire and emergency services. So that would be back before you with the resolution of approval at the next meeting if that's as we're directed. The other thing I would mention is actually one of the residents during public testimony mentioned the access, and I did want to reinforce the fact that we will try to get in writing from Washington County what they are recommending for the improvements to both county roads to make sure that we've got that documented as well in terms of that access point.
Right, and that's pretty standard procedure I see in here. The county has already called for turn lanes out on 75th Stillwater Road, right?
Correct. That's what I understand.
And
Yep.
let me just ask a quick question here. The county has improved some of the access to the roads flowing west off of Lake Elmo there as we come down the hill. Is there any other considerations that you know of? I don't, from the county to perhaps flatten that hill. I know they looked at it some time ago to try to make that a little safer there.
I've heard that in the past as well, but not to my knowledge.
Yeah.
Once again, it is part of why I will absolutely follow up before our next meeting with the county to make sure that we've got everything that we've got. We're understanding exactly what they're looking at in terms of that access point on CASA 17.
Yeah, and I wonder if Brad, or even perhaps you, I'm not sure which would be more appropriate. The one road off there, and I forget the number on it, has that warning system for traffic coming up or down those hills to warn those people coming in. I wonder if that would be appropriate here. I can't tell, I think the gentleman made a good point, I can't tell where exactly this is on 17. So if they're close, you're gonna have sort of a double issue there. So something that maybe we should reach out to the county and see if we can get some feedback on that. Maybe Brad's more appropriate in this case, Jennifer, I'm not sure.
Well, I will follow up with them after this to get it documented exactly what their recommendations are for both county roads. And then also inquire about that same warning sign at the same time. And I can loop Brad in if needed.
Yeah, fantastic. That's fantastic, Jennifer. Other than those things, I think the council, it was pretty darn happy with what you had done, the work you had done, the developer had done in terms of laying this out. You're doing about the best you can with the wetlands stuck in the middle of it. And, watersheds are pretty jealous of those things. So they don't want you messing with them, and this looks like about the best we're gonna be able to do here. So with the conditions we've put in, the fire chief if he wants to be presented with this, and he does, to produce a letter agreeing with this, and then just the other minimal direction I think we gave you. I think the council can probably recommend this going forward with Jennifer's assistance. Mr. Rock?
I think so, yeah.
Mr. Mayor and council members, again, I would just like a process question answered by Jennifer. And Jennifer, in the past, we have absolutely discussed these things, added conditions, brought the resolution back to the next meeting. Can we go ahead, can the council make a motion to preliminary approve the preliminary plat based on your conditions and bringing the resolution back next month?
It's more
I
feasible.
mean, I think we're just looking for, yes, to a certain extent, if that makes any sense, but really what we're looking for is, it sounds like it's a positive recommendation to prepare a resolution of approval and get that information from, only because we don't know what the fire chief is going to say. So in this case, we really should have that review. And then that will be in your packet with the resolution at the next meeting.
What I'm getting to is, per the council manual, I mean, action items are listed out. My thought is, can we, and Jennifer, this is on you, could the council do a motion to direct you to do a resolution to bring back at the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
As long as those conditions are in there, I see no problem with doing that, Jennifer. Obviously, it would be moot if we could not get those things accomplished, correct? Right, okay. Let's go ahead and do what Kim recommends here. We'll turn it into an action item, and we will take a first and a second to go ahead and ask Jennifer to prepare this and bring it back to us at the June meeting, prepared and ready to go.
Yeah, I'll so move.
Good. Second.
Second.
Thanks, John.
Councilmember Carr?
Aye.
Councilmember Rod?
Aye.
Councilmember Kiefer?
Aye.
Councilmember Tufti?
Aye.
Mayor Huber?
You bet. Nice job on that one, guys. All right, that's a tough one, but well done, Jennifer. Appreciate all the work on that. All right, done with that. We have no action items for our city attorney. Any new business? None. Unfinished business? None. Staff updates? Nothing. Jennifer's not saying she has any, so I think we're good there. City council reports. What do we got from the guys? Tom?
Well, I got Jennifer, per our conversation, you're like, you could go either way on the, on bringing the 1 acre lots, maybe making some kind of recommendation for a text amendment or something for ordinances, addressing the 1 acre lots. I mean, some of the 1 acre lots I looked at, I mean, they're nice little buildable lots. I mean, I hate to say they can't build on them. So, I mean, I think maybe addressing it as a council will save us some future headaches and less issues for anybody coming in, buying one, anything. I just don't want, I don't want to go getting dragged into court saying, well, you did them. No, I just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, it can be tightened either way.
Well, that's what
Can
she
be
said.
tightened either way.
She said halfway either way, so
Yeah.
I would just soon like to keep those 1 acre lots with, and Jennifer brought this up, I think she was exactly right. Obviously, you gotta have septic. There's certain conditions, you have to have septic. Your setbacks have to be different. You can't have the setbacks that larger lots have. And I defer to her to come up with 3, 4, whatever it is. So if you do have a 1 acre lot and you don't meet that criteria, well, then it's not a buildable lot. We don't have to decide, we don't have to give a variance, it's just not a buildable lot. Because there are some left. I mean, I was kind of surprised when I started looking at it.
Okay, so, John, you wanna throw it on there and have a discussion about Tom's topic here
Yes.
next month?
Yep.
Real good. Bob?
Makes sense to me.
And then I would like to have Jennifer just kind of come up with an idea on that.
Sure.
I'd truly defer to her so we have something to talk about. If that makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I guess, Mayor and council members, what you're asking for is Jennifer to come back with an ordinance at the next meeting.
Just a discussion item to start with.
Yeah.
Just to see what she thinks. Because maybe she'll noodle it and say, yeah, I don't think we should do anything. I don't know. But we talked about it kind of not very long ago, so I just defer to see what she can come up with.
Jeff?
I'd love to hear how we could tighten that up. I don't
Yeah.
wanna see 1 acre lots
Yeah, I don't
developed,
either.
so.
The purpose of it for me would be to tighten it up. We don't need 1 acre lots. We're gonna make a lot of people upset with 1 acre lots. So I'd like to talk about it, but I'll end up tightening it, from my perspective. Anything else for city council reports, guys? Nothing else. Community calendar, I think it is,
Bob's last day.
Bob, do you wanna read the community calendar or not?
You can pass it, Bob.
You can pass it to John. John, community
Sure.
calendar, please.
Matabidi Public Schools Board Meeting, Thursday, May 9th and May 23rd, Matabidi District Education Center at 7 p.m. Stillwater Public Schools Board Meeting, Thursday, May 9th, Stillwater City Hall, 7 p.m. And Washington County Commissioners Meetings, Tuesdays at the Government Center, 9 a.m.
Thank you, John. And before we adjourn, I'd like to offer the floor to Bob Tufty. Bob Tufty has been with the city working on our planning commission, being a volunteer. If you see flowers around this building, it's Bob and his wife. He has put service into this city for, I can't even imagine how long, 25, 30, 40 years. Bob was appointed here when we lost one of our council people, and he's done a fantastic job. He's been a real source of strength and stability, and Bob, unfortunately, is going to be leaving us. So I think he has a couple of words to say on that matter.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody here for helping me during the years I've been involved in city business. So I'd like to start with John and say, John, you served on the planning commission before coming onto the council, and you have been really amazingly good as a councilman. Proud of you. Good friend. Tom.
Uh-oh.
Oh. Now I'm gonna get you. You introduced me to a lot of your friends in your home, where you invited me to come over. And a lot of those people are still friends with me now. Like them a great deal. And I appreciated that. I just wanted you to know that.
Thanks.
You got me started in city business.
I'm sorry.
Are you blaming him, Bob, or
Yep,
thanking him?
Comes a hammer now. No, I'm just kidding.
Anyhow, some of the things that you did for the city that I'm aware of, I'm sure there's a lot more, but you allowed me to get our street blacked out. And I've been grateful ever since. We needed that desperately. So anyhow, also you did some things that most people don't know about. Tom has been, and me too, but gone down to the state capitol, and we would campaign or be a part of a group effort to get some things done the way we wanted them done. And for that, I'd like to thank you too.
Well, you're welcome.
It's a
Thank
great,
you.
great thing. I enjoyed the activity. Jeff, or should I say Mr. Mayor,
Yes. Jeff's good, please, no more of that.
served on Planning Commission. He served on the City Council. He's currently the mayor and has done quite a few things that most people probably aren't aware of. He got this building reconditioned. It was in pretty poor shape, and we were having trouble with windows and doors and all kinds of stuff. And he has been the most active person in getting the roof repair, siding done, a legal sidewalk, because we weren't legal. He took care of that. He got the parking lot blacktopped. Windows were replaced. So he's taken on quite a few things to make this a more enjoyable place to come and do our jobs. So thank you.
Thank you, Bob, I appreciate that. My hands still hurt from doing all the curling and pounding. It's hard.
Oh, there's one other thing that he's done that really did a lot of great things for the city of Grant. He was on the commission for cable TV, and he has worked really hard in that role. And some of the things that benefited the city, he could run off a list better than I can. So I'll let him do it if he wants to.
I'm
Okay,
too modest for that. Thanks though, Bob, I do appreciate that.
I wish you would.
Thank
But Jeff Kiefer is a personal friend now. We served on the planning commission together with John. And he's become involved in certain things, trying to smooth over rough spots on how we operate, things like that. He's a really good guy. And he and I go to breakfast every so often, and I hope we keep doing that. I love it. So anyhow, you guys are all friends that I didn't have until I got involved here, but I'm really proud of you. And then Kim over there, she has done more things than people ever know about to help the city of Grant. She's kind of responsible for handling a lot of things that Jeff gets involved in, gets him on track and stuff, you know, he needs it. So, anyhow, with that, I've been very proud to do different things for the city of Grant because I'm proud of Grant. I'm glad that we moved here 20-some years ago, and I've enjoyed myself as being a part of the city. So, thank you.
And don't you forget to come back for your plaque too. We got a really nice plaque for you coming. So you gotta come back for that presentation, okay?
Oh, wow.
Don't forget
okay.
about us.
Genuine
That's our next
imitation gold leaf on that.
No, we're springing for the big thing. Anyway, that's all we have tonight. Thanks everyone for coming. A little more complex than usual. It's good to see all your faces. Let's go ahead and call for an adjournment this evening, please.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, sir.
Nice.
You gonna second that?
Councilmember Carr?
Aye.
Councilmember Rouse?
Aye.
Councilmember Deeper?
Aye.
Councilmember Tucker?
Aye.
Mayor Beaver?
Aye. Thank you. Thank you all.
I'm gonna miss you, Bob.
Bob, you're not going anywhere.